The Dallas Cowboys have made multiple moves ahead of their Week 2 matchup versus the New York Giants, and all three of these moves have serious implications for the game. We'll tell you all three of them and why exactly these moves were crucial to make before game time versus the New York Giants. Welcome in here to Cowboys Digest, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews, and I appreciate you tuning in to today's show. We've got lots to discuss, so without further ado, let's get right into it with an official signing here. Sports Day Cowboys having the report. Cowboys are signing wide receiver Ryan Flournoy to the 53-man roster ahead of the Giants matchup. Flournoy, in fact, made the 53-man roster originally when it first came out, but with some move around, some signings, they ended up releasing him from that 53-man roster. He cleared waivers and then was immediately signed to the Cowboys practice squad. And this is not an elevation for this game. This is not, we're bringing it up for this game alone. This is we are signing him because the Cowboys placed Perrion Winfrey on injured reserve, meaning there's an open spot on their roster. Ryan Flournoy gets the nod. Let's talk about Flournoy here for a little bit and why exactly he was the choice. Last season, played with Dallas in 11 games he appeared in. He had 10 receptions for 102 yards and no touchdowns, but really was a popular guy in training camp and throughout preseason. And when he made the roster, there was some people very happy. There was some people that thought Trayshawn Holden deserved that spot, but I think both sides could agree that once he made the 53-man roster, he should have stayed there, and ultimately the Cowboys signed an offensive lineman from the waivers that originally played for the Philadelphia Eagles and released Ryan Flournoy. So it was a kind of interesting move, to say the least, but he's back now. Talk about those preseason stats. 3 games played. He started in one of those, had 12 targets, ended up with 9 receptions for 61 yards, a 6.8 average, and averaging about 20 yards per game. Really looked better than Trayshawn Holden, in my opinion. I think that he deserved that 53-man spot when he got it, but ultimately the Cowboys decided to make another move after that was already decided. And, good news is now I think it's a smart thing for him to be the first one brought up when you placed Perrion Winfrey on that IR, so good move for the Cowboys. Let's go to a report here from the Dallas Morning News, and they say, quote, wide receiver Ryan Flournoy is being signed to the Cowboys' 53-man roster, the team announced on Saturday. Flournoy was initially waived on August 28th as the Cowboys prepared for a season-opening matchup with the Eagles. He was added to the Dallas practice squad a day later, end quote. And the 28th, that was not when the original 53-man roster cut-down day was, because, as I mentioned, he made the original 53-man roster, but like I said, signings and move-arounds ended up where it basically put it to where he didn't get on the roster. So that wasn't the only move the Cowboys did make, though, ahead of their Week 2 matchup against the New York Giants. Flournoy is by far the biggest move. You get a signing, you get a wide receiver to help out on your offensive staff, and I think we're going to see a more use to him. I personally don't think Brooks was doing all that much, so I would argue we're going to see Flournoy and Brooks about the same amount, or Tolbert, whatever it is, but I think that it's a pretty good signing to elevate that 53-man roster. A couple other moves, though, here. Cornerback Zion Childress and cornerback Robert Rochell have been elevated from the practice squad for this game. As you can see here from Kyle Yeomans, all three should have a chance to play. Specifically talking about the cornerbacks now, Childress is being called up as a backup nickel. Reddy Stewart is going to take over in place of DaRon Bland, who is going to be out this game. The hope is that maybe next week he can have a different outcome. Maybe he can play, maybe he can't. And for Robert Rochell, he was a guy that the Cowboys actually signed in about the late July area. He obviously didn't end up making the 53-man roster. Did sign to the practice squad, originally played with the Packers and a couple other different teams for his, I would say, past 4 or 5 years in his career. But with that being said, both of these guys are for depth options. For Zion Childress, he's a nickel back, so we're able to kind of place him in that backup position for Reddy Stewart. He had a 5-year collegiate career in which he saw time at Texas State and the University of Kentucky. At Texas State, he had 2 years there, ended up getting 41 tackles in his second season, which allowed him to be SEC school bound, and then, of course, had a pretty good career with the University of Kentucky Wildcats. 3 passes defended in 2022 and 23, 2 passes defended in 2024. Also had a sack in each year in his Kentucky career, a forced fumble in his senior year as well. He was a UDFA the Cowboys really, really liked. In fact, there was a lot of talk that he was going to make the 53-man roster when it originally came out. He doesn't make the roster. Reddy Stewart gets the nod, but now with DaRon Bland out, your nickelback is in a very interesting situation, knowing that, well, you need to have Zion Childress there, and that's exactly what they do as they get DaRon Bland, Reddy Stewart, and Zion Childress now all officially on the roster for this game. As I mentioned, these two, both Rochell and Childress, are going to be call-ups for this game, meaning you get 3 call-ups from the practice squad. They are using one of each of theirs in this Week 2 matchup versus the New York Giants. Why did Robert Rochell get the call-up, though? People are probably asking that. I think the bigger thing is that tells you that Trevon Diggs is probably not 100% just yet. They want to make sure that he is, and I would expect him to be following Malik Nabers for a majority of the time come this matchup versus the New York Giants. But at the same time, we know that he really wasn't expected to play this early. I mean, if you go back to early training camp to even, right before week 3 of the preseason, it was very much expected that he would not be available for, week 1. And ends up saying, okay, I'm about 75% sure come, Monday morning before the Thursday night game versus the Philadelphia Eagles. It works out where he is ready. And he played a very effective cornerback, shutting down A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I do believe he'll be traveling, though, with Malik Nabers, at least for this game, just because I don't see the New York Giants receiving staff as good as, other receiving staffs out there. If we look at the stats of Robert Rochell, had 4 years in his career, 2 with the Los Angeles Rams, 2 most recently with the Green Bay Packers. He's all right. I think there are some good positives about him. He had some good PFF grades in the past, but for his past two years with Green Bay and with Green Bay in those 2 seasons, he had a combined 20 games. Ended up with just 6 tackles, so was really just a backup option there. If you go back to when he was playing regularly with the Los Angeles Rams, his rookie season appeared in 11 games, had 14 tackles, 3 assists. In his sophomore year season, 17 games, 5 total tackles. For a quarterback, though, or cornerback, I should say, it's not a bad thing to look over the tackles. Usually the bigger thing is, how many times are they getting targeted? How many times are they getting their passes defended? He had an interception his rookie year. Didn't really have too many passes defended in his sophomore year. Had 4 in his rookie season. So he's going to be a guy you can move around. He's played in a couple different positions throughout the NFL, whether it be nickel or regular cornerback. I think you could also be feeling pretty safe with him at safety if you were to need him there. But yeah, a couple of call-ups there. And like I said, practice squad call-ups are very intriguing to me. That's not the right one. There's the right one. Because Zion Childress, you have to lift him up for this week. If DaRon Bland is going to be out next week, you have to lift him up next week specifically for that depth option, because you don't want to have to be worried about Reddy Stewart getting injured in the game, especially since Brian Schottenheimer said yesterday that, quote, we are going to see a lot of Reddy Stewart playing football. So I do think that Childress will get the call up again next week, no matter what. Even if DaRon Bland is healthy, it's again more for that depth option. But he only gets 3 call ups. So after next week, if DaRon Bland is not ready, that's when the question needs to be made: is Zion Childress going to be signed to the active roster? Or are they going to have to go make a move for a free agent? It would be a question that can't be answered later, but is something to make sure that we start thinking about, especially if DaRon Bland continues to be a non-participant in practice throughout next week as well. But those are the moves heading into week number 2 versus the New York Giants. Before we go, though, I want to give you a Cowboys question today. Obviously, we're very close now to the second game of the 2025 NFL season for the Dallas Cowboys. And, I want to do a little predict the score action. So I want you to get in the comments and predict the score of tomorrow's Cowboys versus Giants game. Let me know your answer down there in the comment section. I'll obviously be checking them all. Probably asking what my score prediction is. I think the Cowboys win. I don't trust the play of Russell Wilson. I think he is, quite frankly, done with his time. I don't think he should be in the NFL anymore. I really am surprised that he's getting the start over Jackson Dart, but one way or another, he does. So I'm going to say the offense for the Giants goes stagnant. I think the defense for the Cowboys shows why they are actually a really good defense. Hopefully Matt Eberflus's scheme is a little better, but I'm going to say Cowboys win 24-13 is the final score. All right, that is my final score prediction. We appreciate you. We're excited for the game tomorrow, and we'll see you here on Cowboys Digest then. Peace out, guys.